We on? Okay, great. Hey guys, it's your boy MATV. Another video, and today we're gonna be doing some more r/entitled parents. I'm very sorry for not uploading for a long time. So let's get started. Entitled mother leaves her son at a party so she can smoke weed. Disclaimer: this story is in no way intended to criticize marijuana or the people who smoke it. Cast: me, myself. EM, our dreaded entitled mother. CB, cute boy. SF, stepfather. SU, step-uncle. M, my mom. Love you, Mom. So this story happened last summer. My stepfather got invited to a family BBQ that was being hosted by his brother, and me and my mom decided to tag along. We got there without incident, and for the first hour or so, everyone was having a pretty great time. Food was good, the weather was great, everyone was laughing. Typical family barbecue. About 2 hours into the party, SF's daughter arrives with her son, CB, who was about 3 when this went down. Almost as soon as she arrived, she let CB loose into the yard so he could play. Instantly started complaining to the other guests about how difficult it was to get there, how expensive gas money was, and how difficult CB was being, etc. Putting aside the fact that she came to the party out of the blue with no indication that she wanted to come, and how she was bringing everyone down for complaints, the main issue of this situation was that she just let CB roam around this yard unattended. Now this yard is huge, with a very deep slope that leads to a busy street and a small hill towards the back of the property that leads to the woods, with a pretty deep creek. On top of that, CB is autistic, with a few other special needs to boot. So he tends to wander off and get lost a lot. Needless to say, this whole situation was making me very nervous. So we were talking by the grill. I was constantly looking over my shoulder to see just where CB was and what he was doing. After a few minutes, EM spoke up. OP, let him play on his own. He doesn't need you breathing down his neck. I'm just worried that he might get hurt or go a little too far into the woods. What are you, a child expert? You don't have any children of your own. What would you know about any of this? Well, OP is studying college to work with children. You are? Yeah, I want to get my degree in child developmental psychotherapy. After I said that, EM went silent for a bit and the conversation ended there. About 20 minutes later, CB came running up to us and told us he had to go to potty. EM then suggested that I show him where it was because I had been to SU's house more than she had. I thought it was a bit odd, but I didn't mind because I love CB and I'm always happy to help him out. So we go inside and I help him get to the toilet and wash his hands. No problem. However, by the time we came back out, both EM and her car were gone. I quickly asked my mom where she went, but she had no idea. So I'm rushing around this party, asking pretty much everyone there if they knew where the entitled mother drove off to, which is a resound no from everyone. At this point, my stepfather, step-uncle, and my mother are all trying to contact the entitled mother. CB is slowly getting more and more upset because he doesn't know where his mother is. I try to calm him down, telling him it's going to be just me and him chilling for a while till his mother came back. He quickly perked up and started to play around with a few toys laying around for the kids to play with. 4 hours pass before the entitled mother comes back to the party. The cute boy runs up to her and gives her a hug, basically the only person happy to see her right now. That's when SF and SU storm up to her and start questioning her. SF, where the hell were you? CB was worried sick. I'm a grown adult. I don't have to tell you where I am every 5 seconds. Chill out. You were gone for 4 hours without telling us you were going and when you'd be back. You can't do that. My name is here, so I can. What are you talking about? He's majoring in child whatever in college. Isn't her future job to watch kids all day? That doesn't mean you can abandon your son. At this point, I knew I had called upon the cursed wrath of the entitled parent. How dare you! I did not abandon him. I came back. What? I can't have fun anymore? He's a good boy. You should feel honored to care for him. I go to smoke weed one time and now you are all on my case like I'm a bad mother. You don't even have children, so how would you know? You were smoking weed? Does smoking weed take that long? I don't think EM intended for anyone to know that she was smoking weed, because after she realized that, she outed herself to everyone. She grabbed CB and quickly drove off the property. I haven't heard from EM since then. SF has told me that she sent him a ton of text messages about how I'm a terrible person, how I should cut ties with his side of the family. Honestly, I'm not that concerned about her trash talking. As selfish as this may sound, I'm more upset over the fact that instead of enjoying the rest of the party, I have to spend 4 hours babysitting while trying to track down EM. But hey, karma, I guess. That was hilarious, honestly. Lady gets mad that I bought my son an airplane seat. This seems... Holy crap, that's long. I believe this here. It turned really long. I sincerely apologize. TLDR at the bottom. We're all gonna figure out what a TLDR is. What is TLDR? TLDR is a common too long didn't read. Oh. Okay, well now you know what it means. So I have a son who's currently 2.5 years old, but we've been traveling by plane since he was 6 months old due to our living an 18-hour drive from my family, parents, younger sibling, grandparents, etc. In the US, you generally don't need to buy a plane ticket for a child under 2 years old. You can buy a seat, like if you want to bring your baby in their carrier or you just want to use a car seat. They can also be considered a lap child and sit in your lap for free. When my son was about 1.5 years old, we were flying back to my hometown to go visit with my family. We were flying on an airline named the opposite of Northeast. On this airline, an adult with a child under 6 years old, IARC, got to board right after the A110-ish boarding numbers and before the A1160 or whatever it is, which is helpful for me to get some extra time to find a seat and settle with my kid. Now, he was under 2, so he could have flown for free and sat in my lap. But after that flight, we had taken a few months before that, where he was hell on wheels, and I was mortified by how terrible we probably made our roommate's flight. So I decided to buy him a plane ticket so he could have a little more room for our things. So we could have a little more room for our things. Diaper bag, toys to entertain him, snacks, juice, breast milk, blanket, etc. I hated to feel like I was inconveniencing other passengers with my child when I had to keep him to such a small, confined space to begin with. It was better to give him some extra room in the form of his own seat so as to not crowd others when he wanted to get out of my lap or try to look out the window, etc. Plus, then I could sit between him and provide a buffer for his wayward feet. He was generally, and still is, a really good little traveler, but every 1.5-year-old has their moments, as other parents can understand. I swear I do my best to keep him under control. If you've never flown with a child under 2 as a lap child, you should know that when you go to check your bags at the airport, you get a normal boarding pass for yourself as well as a boarding pass that clearly says lap infant across the top of it. Otherwise, if you buy your child a ticket, they get a normal boarding pass like everybody else with your boarding group number. This airline has rows of 3 seats on either side of a very narrow aisle. I tend to stick to the far back rows just in case I need to leave the seat with him and we're in the air, and also to try and put some distance between us and other passengers. So we board with family boarding. I grab 2 seats all the way in the very back row, shove all our stuff into the seats, and go about trying to settle our things in. My son decided to sit in the seat by the window and was watching the ground crew do their thing. I was sitting in the middle seat behind him. The aisle seat was empty and the plane started to fill up, but again we were at the very last row, so most people found a seat before they made it to us, and or saw I had a kid with me and decided to sit elsewhere. Can't blame them. When the plane was about 3/4 full, I hear someone say, excuse me, in a rather snobby voice. I turned to see a woman, maybe 30s, I'm in my early 20s, with a little girl, maybe 7 to 8 years old. Before I could even respond, the entitled mother demands that I move to the aisle seat and take my son with me so that her daughter could sit by the window. I want to say that if my son was flying free and was a lap infant, I wouldn't have had an issue with moving to the aisle seat to let the little girl sit by the window if the mom had asked me nicely. However, I had purchased 2 tickets with my own money, which isn't easy to swing when you're a single mom, and even if I moved to the aisle seat, my son would have the middle seat and she'd have to sit apart from her daughter. I was not going to be used as a babysitter for someone else's kid on a flight, even if I didn't have my own child to deal with. I tried to explain this to her. Went a little something like this. Oh, I would, but I bought 2 seats, and even if there will be only 1 seat open, so you might want to and even if I moved, there'd only be 1 seat open, so you might want to try somewhere else so you can both sit together. There were still entire rows that were empty on the plane at this point. You're lying. He's clearly not even 2 yet, and under 2 they fly free and sit in your lap. Please move now. Yes, they can fly for free in your lap, but I specifically bought him his own ticket so he could have his own seat and more room. There are several rows a bit farther forward that are still empty and have window seats. Well, he's small. You should just hold him. My daughter wants to sit by the window, and I need to be in the last row, so just hold him so he can sit here. The very back row on the other side was taken up already. I'm really sorry, but no, we need the extra space. I bought and paid for the extra seat. I'm not going to give it up just because you feel entitled to this space. Our things are already settled and stowed away. At this point, EM is working herself up into a tizzy and has caught the attention of the older couple sitting across the aisle. The husband tries to tell this EM to just choose somewhere else to sit, but she snapped at him to mind his own business. Kind of hard inside such a small space. So when she's turned her attention back to me and my now fussing child because this strange lady is yelling at mommy, the wife waved down one of the flight attendants who came over, and that went along these lines. Flight attendant: hello, are we all okay over here? No, this girl refuses to put her son in her lap to make room for us, even though he is clearly less than 2 and could fit in her lap. Turning to me: ma'am, is your child a lap infant? She is less than 2 years old. See, I told you, make her move. But I did purchase him a ticket because I knew he would appreciate having some extra space to get out of my lap. I had grabbed both of our normal paying customer boarding passes and handed them to the flight attendant. See, that doesn't prove anything. Passes for a lap infant. Yes, turning back to EM. Yes, they do give boarding passes for lap infants, but this is not a lap infant boarding pass. So I'm sorry, but she paid for that seat, and there is no assigned seating, so you can't ask her to move. EM started going crazy, screaming at me, at the flight attendant. Her kid is crying, but I think it may have been more out of embarrassment than that the flight attendant was telling them no. Anyways, the flight attendant ended up threatening to have her removed from the plane by air marshals if she didn't find a different seat. EM huffed angrily, promised to write a terrible review, and told the flight attendant specifically she was going to call opposite of Northeast Airlines corporate office and have her fired for treating EM and her daughter so poorly. The daughter did get her window seat further up the plane. The flight attendant rolled her eyes where only I and the older couple could see, and she apologized for The rest of the flight went smoothly. My kid laughed when the plane took off and then passed out in his own seat with his head on my leg about 20 minutes into the flight and slept the whole time. And the flight attendant gave me a complimentary glass of wine once he was asleep. Told the pilots at the end of the flight how wonderful she is. I saw EM inside the airport afterwards as we made our way to the baggage, berating a cleaning staff member because the airport Burger King was closed at 11:30 p.m. As if the poor staff member even had control over that to begin with. I pointed a TSA person towards them and went on my merry way to see my not-so-baby sister. This was about a year ago, and I haven't thought about it really since until one of my co-workers said something that reminded me of it. So I decided to share. Sorry it was so long. Too long, didn't read. EM tried to force me and my son out of our seats that I'd paid for because she just couldn't bear sit literally anywhere else. Flight attendant confirms I paid for both seats and threatens to call air marshals if entitled mother doesn't sit her butt down in a different seat. Got a complimentary glass of wine. The rest of the flight was fine. Saw EM, Berding, cleaning staff, and insist TSA on her. Now this we passed. He looks so cute. Aww. The floor is lava. So cute. Okay. Well, that was it for this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next